A journalist named Daniel Mercer received an old anonymous email. No sender name, no location, just one line. This town disappears every 12 years. He thought it was a hoax at first, but the email included something strange. A map fragment, a place that didn't exist in any modern record. Daniel searched every database he had access to. Nothing matched, no town, no coordinates, no official history. But local forums and forgotten archives kept repeating one name in broken mentions. A town called Greyhaven, and every mention came with the same warning. Do not go when the cycle is near. Daniel decided to investigate anyway. He traveled deep into a remote forest region where the last known coordinates pointed. The deeper he went, the more his technology failed. His GPS started glitching, his compass spun in circles. His phone lost signal completely, then the road ended, but the forest didn't. He kept walking, for hours, until suddenly, the trees stopped, and in front of him a town appeared. No warning, no transition, just buildings standing silently in perfect stillness. Greyhaven. It looked alive, but wrong. No birds, no wind, no movement. Even his footsteps felt like they were being swallowed by the ground. He entered the town slowly. The streets were clean, the houses intact, lights off in every building. But something was off. There were no signs of life, not even dust moving in the air. Daniel checked his watch. It froze at 11:12. He tapped it. It didn't move. He looked around again, and that's when he noticed something disturbing. Every street seemed slightly misaligned, like the town was not built normally, but placed together incorrectly. And he tried to mark his path on a wall with chalk. When he turned back, the mark was gone. A cold silence pressed against him. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Behind him. He turned instantly. No one there. But the footsteps continued, matching his movements exactly. Daniel's breathing got heavier. He turned toward the exit road, but it was gone. The forest had vanished. Only more streets remained, stretching further into the town. And then he saw it. A large clock mounted on a building. It was moving backwards, not seconds, hours, and when it struck 11:12 again, every light in the town flickered at once, then total silence. A whisper came from nowhere. "You are early." Daniel froze, and at the end of the street, a faint figure appeared, not fully real, flickering like it didn't belong in this world. Watching him, Daniel stood completely still as the flickering figure slowly became more visible. It looked like a man, wearing an old dust-covered coat, but his body kept glitching in and out of existence, like reality couldn't fully hold him. The figure spoke again. "You shouldn't be here yet," Daniel forced his voice out. "Who are you?" The man gave a tired expression. "Someone who stopped counting the cycles." Daniel took a careful step forward. "Cycles? What cycles?" The man glanced around the empty street before answering. "Every 12 years, this town resets itself." Daniel frowned. "That's impossible." The man gave a faint, almost broken smile. "You keep saying that. Everyone says that the first time." Suddenly, the air around them shifted. The buildings seemed to breathe. Windows changed position slightly, and doors no longer matched where they were before. The town was rearranging itself in real time. The man looked alarmed. "It's starting early this time." Daniel turned around. "What's starting?" The man grabbed his arm tightly. "The transition, when the town forgets what it was and becomes something new." Daniel tried to pull away. "Forget? A town can't forget." The man leaned closer, his voice low. "Here it can." A deep humming sound rose from beneath the ground, like thousands of voices speaking at once. The streetlights flickered violently, and then a new structure began forming in the distance, not built, not constructed, but emerging, like it was being remembered into existence. Daniel stared at it. "What is that?" The man's face turned pale. "That wasn't there in the last cycle." The structure rose higher. A building made of mixed materials, old bricks, metal, glass that didn't reflect correctly. And at its center, a door, slowly opening on its own. The man stepped back immediately. "No, not that building." Daniel looked at him. "What is it?" The man hesitated, then said the words slowly, "That is where the town resets people." Daniel felt a chill run through him. "Resets people?" The man nodded. "Not the town, the people inside it." The humming grew louder. The building's door opened fully now, revealing a long, dark corridor inside. And something inside that corridor was moving. Daniel took a step forward without realizing it. The man shouted, "Stop! If you enter that place, you don't come out the same." Daniel stopped, but only for a moment, because from inside the corridor, he heard something, a voice, his own voice, calling him. "I, Daniel." He froze. The man grabbed his shoulder. "Don't listen to it." But Daniel was already looking at the entrance, and the voice came again, closer this time. "Come inside." The corridor lights flickered, and Daniel realized something terrifying. The voice sounded exactly like him. Daniel stood at the entrance of the corridor, unable to move. His own voice echoed again from inside. "Come inside." The man behind him tightened his grip. "Don't respond," he warned. But Daniel's eyes stayed fixed on the doorway. The corridor didn't look normal. The walls seemed built from fragments of different places. Different houses, different streets. Different versions of the same town stitched together like broken memories. Daniel slowly stepped forward. The man immediately let go. "No, I won't follow you in there," he said. Daniel looked back once. "Then what happens if I go alone?" The man answered without hesitation. "Then you become part of it." Daniel turned back toward the corridor and stepped inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, everything outside disappeared. No sound, no wind, only silence. Inside, the corridor stretched endlessly forward. The walls were covered in photographs. Daniel stopped walking. He looked at the first one. It showed Greyhaven, alive, people walking in the streets, children playing, markets full of noise. Then he looked at the next photo. The same town, empty, abandoned. The next one showed the town partially dissolving into fog. And then another. Buildings rearranged into impossible shapes. But what made Daniel's blood turn cold was the detail in every image. He was in all of them, standing in different places. Sometimes watching, sometimes running, sometimes not human at all. He stepped back. "This doesn't make sense," he whispered. Then he heard it. Footsteps behind him, slow, matching his rhythm perfectly. Daniel turned sharply. No one there, but the footsteps continued, getting closer. Then a voice came from behind him, soft, calm, familiar. "Why are you running from yourself?" Daniel froze. He slowly turned around and saw him, another version of Daniel Mercer, standing at the end of the corridor, perfectly still, watching him. Daniel's breath shook. "What are you?" The other Daniel smiled slightly. "I'm what stays when you leave." Daniel stepped back. "That's impossible." The other version tilted his head. "You've already been here before. You just don't remember it yet." The corridor lights flickered. The walls shifted slightly, unlike the entire space was reacting to their presence. Daniel looked around, confused. "What is this place really?" The other Daniel answered calmly. "This is not a town." Daniel frowned. "What?" "It's a loop," the other said, "a system that rebuilds reality every 12 years. Daniel shook his head. "No, that's not possible." The other Daniel stepped forward. "You keep saying that. Every cycle says that." Daniel's voice dropped. "Cycle?" The other Daniel nodded. "You are not the first Daniel Mercer to come here." Silence, heavy. The corridor seemed to darken. Daniel whispered, "That's a lie." The other version didn't react. Instead, he said something worse. "You are the version that made it this far." Daniel felt his chest tighten. What happens to the others? The other Daniel looked at him for a long moment, then answered quietly, "They become part of the town." The corridor suddenly trembled. The photographs on the walls began shifting rapidly, showing faster versions of the town collapsing and rebuilding. The air felt unstable, like reality itself was struggling to continue. The other Daniel stepped closer. "The cycle is about to complete again." Daniel backed away slowly. "And when it does?" The other Daniel's expression didn't change. "Only one of us leaves this corridor." The lights flickered violently, and the walls began to close in. The corridor began to collapse inward. The walls shifted closer with every passing second. Photographs on both sides started burning into static, then reforming into new images. Faster cycles of Greyhaven, each one worse than the last. Daniel and the other version stood facing each other in the narrowing space. The other Daniel spoke calmly. "It always ends like this." Daniel's voice shook. "Ends how?" The other version gestured around them. "One leaves, one stays. That's the rule of the reset." Daniel stepped back. "There has to be another way." The other Daniel gave a faint smile. "You said that too, the last time?" Daniel froze. "You've done this before." The other Daniel nodded slowly. "Not just me. You. Many times." The corridor lights flickered violently again, and suddenly Daniel saw something flash in his mind, a memory that wasn't his. Walking into the town, the clock at 11:12, the flickering man outside, the corridor, himself, standing here. Before. Daniel stumbled. "No, this isn't real." The other Daniel stepped closer. "It is real. It just hasn't finished yet." The corridor trembled harder. The walls began showing a new pattern. And not images of the town, but of Daniel himself, different versions, running, searching, entering, dying, reappearing. Over and over, Daniel whispered. "How many times?" The other Daniel answered without emotion. "Enough that you stopped asking that question." A deep humming filled the corridor again, but this time it was different. It felt like something was waking up. The entire structure of Greyhaven was shifting outside the corridor. Rebuilding. Resetting. The final cycle was starting. The other Daniel looked upward. "It's time." Daniel stepped back. "What happens if neither of us accepts it?" The other Daniel shook his head. "You don't get that choice." The corridor suddenly split open behind them, revealing a vast empty space filled with floating fragments of the town. Broken streets, half-built buildings, fading people trapped in loops of motion. Daniel stared in horror. "This is the town." The other Daniel nodded. "This is what it becomes between resets." A loud mechanical-like sound echoed through the space, like reality locking into place. The other Daniel spoke quietly. "When the cycle completes, the town chooses what continues." Daniel turned sharply. "Chooses?" The other Daniel pointed at him. "It decides which version of you is stable enough to exist." Daniel felt a cold realization. "It doesn't pick randomly." The other Daniel finished the sentence. "It picks the one that matches the current version of reality best." The fragments of the town began converging. Everything was aligning. The corridor, the memory space, the broken versions of Greyhaven, all collapsing into one point. Daniel felt his body becoming lighter, like he was being rewritten. He looked at the other Daniel. "And what happens to the one it rejects?" The other Daniel's expression softened for the first time. "They don't disappear." He paused. "They become the town." Silence hit like a wall. Daniel stepped back in disbelief. "No." The humming became louder. The final merge was happening. The other Daniel spoke one last time. "You are not the first to stand here, but you might be the last who remembers." The light around Daniel began to blur. His memories started fragmenting. The town, the corridor, himself, everything collapsing into one moment. Daniel reached out. "Wait." But the other Daniel was already fading, and the last thing he said was, "When you wake up, don't look for Greyhaven, because it will already be looking at you." A blinding white flash filled everything. The reset completed.